What did I teach you?
You are no canoe. No, you're a number one.
I can't hear you.
You do come New York. You're a number one.
Peace. Can everybody hear me? If so, just let me know. Just type into the chat. Excellent. Excellent. Hope everybody's well. Hope everybody's been okay. We go through another glorious day in the apocalypse, leading up to the rapture, leading up to the Armageddon, leading up to the fall that everybody's been hopefully waiting for, patiently waiting. Another glorious day in the apocalypse. Hope everybody's been waiting with bated breath, but at the same time not holding their breath, because all the world is a stage and they are just but actors, all waiting for their comings and goings. You know what I'm saying? Exit stage right, enter stage right, exit stage left. You know what I'm saying? All of these niggas got IMDb pages. So, can only take everything for as it appears, which means you can't really take it for anything because it's all fake in one way or the other, because we're dealing with a bunch of liars. You know what I mean? Once we accept that, then that means if they're all the liars, then that means that we're the opposite, which means that we must be the truth. And the truth will always outlast the lie. You know what I'm saying? It's just that the lie has better publicity in PR firms. You know what I'm saying? And word of mouth. However, as they say, gossip is the murder of the spirit. So anybody that's collectively engaging in that, when they could just pick up the phone and speak to whoever they have problems with and choose to go around them, start to go to other people who have nothing really to do with anything, and want to try to change those people's perception of you based on lies. You see what I'm saying? And straight untruths have already proven themselves disqualified from the kingdom. Therefore, you don't, or they don't deserve any of your attention, because in the end, they are manifestations of the lower self, traveling to and fro, seeking who they can devour. You know what I mean? So don't let them devour you with their false accusations and false lies and pretenses that usually come from deep, deep feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what you're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with today. A bunch of inadequate niggas who try to give themselves false titles and stuff like that to try to feel more important than they really are. Because in the end, they never had any control over their real life. So they try to invest themselves into different protocols and movements and ideas that they can attach themselves to, because they don't really think for themselves. And then try to use those the tenets of these things that they're now using as shields to protect themselves from their own inadequacy, and then try to become the zealots of whatever it is that they're trying to make you believe that they are the tenants and the stewards of. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem with most movements and most people in these so-called progressive, I don't like to use the word progressive, so-called nationalistic movements, whether it be Moorish science or anything else. You get a bunch of niggas who are basically in and out of jail because they made all the wrong decisions in their life, and then they want to try to clean themselves up the same way that the final form of the whore is like the religious church chick. You know what I'm saying? Who then always want to tell you about what's righteous and what's not. That's who a lot of these guys are. That's who a lot of these people who purport themselves to be enlightened and the ones trying to give you knowledge. These be the same ones who in their darkest of hearts can't even find a woman or a man to actually settle down with, because they themselves know that they're not worth shit. You know what I'm saying? So once we know and understand that that's who these people really are, we don't have to give them any light or any type of forethought, because in the end, they're an afterthought of an entity that is based on pride. And we know that pride cometh before the fall, which is why Pride Month was right before summer in real life. You understand? Because all of these things are related, of course. So, does anybody have any questions about anything before we get started? We was the first to basically put out there that your boy Benny B been put under the dirt, and ever since then they've been trying to create AI versions of this nigga in reality, walking around talking to people. Like I just saw one today where they posted him in a coffee shop, and because everybody saw the six fingers in the video before that, they got the AI prompt to say basically to tell the prompt to make him put up five fingers to make it look like he's real. But then when the nigga sips the coffee that he's allegedly drinking, the coffee stay at the same height. And it don't even move. You know, like when you sip coffee and you have like cream in it, how the cream, when you take the sip, the cream actually moves in it. Nope, nope, no movement. No movement. Same joint. So then I saw another one where he was walking through debris, but then they were so sloppy, they didn't move the March 6th date from the bottom of the video. From the bottom of the video, because one of the sites that allegedly was bombed was Mossad headquarters. So that's where they kept all the compromise at. That's where all of the 9/11 the 9/11 info and the data breaches and the blackmail and the sex tapes and all that. That's where all of that's at. So all of that might be blown up. You know what I mean? Unless they got it, copies of it in different data centers, which I doubt, because they're really bombing these niggas into the Stone Age. Tel Aviv look like Gaza right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that's the next thing. They got your boy Saperstein, your nigga Saperstein back at it. He done bought the LA bank building the same way he bought the World Trade Center right before they hit it with the UAP. So if I was anybody in LA, I would stay away from that area for the foreseeable future, because these niggas is desperate, and you know when they desperate, what they do, they start blowing up shit, try to blame other people, but that ain't gonna work neither, because they just had a report that over there in the Middle East, the army is rebelling. United States Army soldiers, they rebelling. They not trying to go out there and get blowed up. They not carrying through with the orders. They saying that these orders are illegal. That they not out here trying to die for no Zios. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the plan. So of course they're gonna try to turn it up. Now these are the same people that said that they basically beat Iran, and Iran ain't got no capabilities to do anything outside of their own country. Yet and still now they telling you at the same time that now they got reports that for some reason they're gonna bypass Washington, gonna bypass New York, but they got reports now that they want to just attack LA. Now you know that Gavin Newsom, the reptilian slime ball that destroyed the state, that basically opened up to China, got rid of all of the homeless people, because they had to clean it up for China when they came to visit. And you know that's also Hollywood, so you already know what that is. That's all part of the whole spiel. So yeah, they may be looking to do a false flag joint out there and try to blame it on these niggas to rile people up and make them believe as if that's going to work, because it's not going to work. Everybody already know there's no way that two people with no military clearance could just walk into a military base and then just walk out with drones, and then nobody stopped them, nobody doing nothing. Just like all of the false flags with the synagogues, all of a sudden they had all of these people out there, but y'all don't have nobody out there when schools is getting shot up. But you got all these people to find this dude trying to shoot up this synagogue where nobody got killed. So it all looked like a scam, because that's all they can do is lie and scam and try to trick and all of that. But none of their tricks is working. Tricks is for kids. Everybody know that what the play is. It worked with 9/11 because you still have people who believed in the government. But now all that's dead. Nobody believe in this shit no more. Everybody knows that everybody in the government eat children and are cannibals. They just arrested Jasmine Crockett's bodyguard, had to clap this nigga because he was running some sort of human trafficking ring, which means the apple don't fall far from the tree. So if that's her bodyguard and he was with her all the time, it means she don't know nothing about it. But again, because these Democrats, these Democrats, they stay using black females as the insurgency. Like I told you, the feminazi insurgency, they keep using them to try to do shit and try to get everybody involved with them. But again, it's not working. So they got to pull out the stops. So again, everybody in LA or whatever, I would stay away from that. I would stay away from Essence Fest. I would boycott Essence Fest altogether. Because those dirty Africans, again, it's not a disrespect to clean Africans. I'm only talking about the dirty ones right now. The dirty Africans that took over the Essence Fest and then try to turn it into a multicultural fest and try to downplay that Essence Fest was always about original American culture, melanated culture, trying to bring all of these other people in, trying to scam the vendors and all of that. That's why it crashed the first time. So now they trying to do it again, trying to bring all the whores out, trying to bring Cardi B out and Sexy Red, all of the whores, right? Trying to bring them out, trying to parade them in front of you, then try to throw some real ones in there like Monica and Patti LaBelle. Boycott all them niggas, bro. Boycott all them niggas. The only way that the American artists are going to know that that's not the way to do it is if you boycott them too. That's the only way, man, because they'll continue to do shit to get money and throw it in your face like they still down with us when they only God is money. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it's Patti LaBelle. I don't care all of that. She should know better at this point. You know what I'm saying? These niggas got YouTube. These niggas got all of the same internet shit that you got. So they know that the tide then turned on all of that. So if you're trying to take money from this devil, the African devil that bought that also bought Madam C.J. Walker mansion. So you know you know what they're gonna do with that. They're gonna start putting Jollof pictures up in there. They're gonna start trying to say that she was Yoruba and all this other type of shit. They're gonna try to make it like it's like none of our culture ever happened. So the only way is to continue the delineation, you know what I'm saying? To continue this so-called separation between us and them, because the only way they're gonna know how to not overstep. These niggas are habitual line steppers, you know what I'm saying? So the only way is to get them to go back behind the line is to let them know you're not going to support them with your money, because that's all they care about you anyway. They don't care about us. They not like us. You know what I'm saying? They are with them. They are with the so-called whites and everybody else that is used to making money off of us. But them days is over. You know what I'm saying? The boule is gone. Uncle Jesse is in the ground. It's over. You know what I'm saying? Back to Africa, Pan-Africanism, all that shit is dead. You either with us or you against us. That's just what it is now. You understand? And it's no disrespect. Because, again, we're not going into their countries expecting anything. Because, matter of fact, when we go to their countries, a place like Africa, we get killed. Look up all of the so-called American business people who moved to Africa, moved to Ghana, moved to Nigeria, and got murked out there. Especially the so-called black females from over here getting murked. So who's investigating that? Where's the diaspora African Union shit about that? Nowhere. So again, I'm not anti any melanated people. I'm anti the melanated people that's anti us. So that's who I'm talking about. So if this is not you, who I'm describing, then you shouldn't have no problem. If you feel a twang in your jaw or tightness in your throat when I'm saying this, that's you. Then it's you I'm talking to. You see what I'm saying? That's how easy this work. That's how you can tell who's who. You know what I mean? Here's a question. Hello, Aseer. Can you tell me what the significance of Jamaican and Caribbean islands are? On one hand, I hear that the people of the islands are not related to us. On the other hand, I hear they're us. I'm confused. I saw where our tribes moved around. Yes. Um, Everybody that's in the American hemisphere technically is a part of the Americas. Like Kush Day said, big up to him. Um, it don't make no sense. How can you be a West Indian, right? Because they call people from Jamaica and Barbados and all of that. They call every Grenada. They call all of them West Indians. But how can you be a West Indian if you're on the eastern portion of America? Wouldn't you be an East Indian? No, because we are all West. We are all considered West Africans. That's how they get you on the fake DNA test when they say, "Oh, you 90% West African." Well, that's because America is in the western portion of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like I already showed y'all years ago how they found a 250 million year old portion piece of Africa in America, which then proves what I've been saying, thank you, about who and what we really are here. The problem again is that we keep going by traders and these whites who are trying to keep this fake history of who we are going so that way they can keep getting money. You know what I'm saying? That's what this is really about. They want to keep getting money off of our ignorance because that's how they're able to support their economies, because all of these people worked to take over everything that we had in order for them to be able to have anything. You understand? So everybody, oh, so they know this, but they also know that you don't understand geography and stuff like that. So they can't really facilitate that type of understanding no more. You know what I'm saying? So they got to keep going with the lies, you know. So people from Escamaica, what they call Jamaica and stuff like that, all of them people are of the Almoricanos, right? They just not mainland. You understand what I'm saying? They just not mainland from here. It's just that they had a different cultural upbringing from those of us in the mainland. Then what started to happen was after the successive wave of invasions kept coming and coming and coming, a lot of the POWs that were brought up in the war camps that they had these Moors into, they wound up shipping them out to the so-called Caribbean, right? And then that's where a lot of the issues started to come, because then we started to basically put them on. Said, no, y'all ain't supposed to be doing all of this. We supposed to be rejecting all of these niggas. We're from here. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna show you how to rebel and do all of this stuff. So that's really what's up with that. All of the Caribbean islands and stuff like that, they already know that they wasn't, you know what I'm saying, they was basically connected to us. You see what I'm saying? But a lot of that started to switch up when they were then put under the different systems, the different educational systems that these guys were trying to inflict on everybody. You know what I'm saying? So yes, we're automatically from here. You know what I mean? When I say here, I'm saying those of us that's born in the western portion of, excuse me, the Americas are all from here. It's just that those of us in the mainland, what they refer to as the mainland, which is actually really Central America, because if you look at the map, we're actually in the central portion of it. You know what I'm saying? They would also agree. It's just that they don't really want to put us onto that because they want us to continue with the false identity of being imported. Now, there are thousands of records of what they refer to as the slave trade, when they was moving Moors from one side of the world to the other, you know what I mean, taking us down from one part of the continent or whatever to the other, and then renaming us, and then, you know what I'm saying, and then different Moors taking different names, and you know what I'm saying, like they was doing a lot of that type of stuff over the years. You know what I'm saying? It's just the main hub of rebellion and establishment of that rebellion was here. You understand what I'm saying? With us here, which is why they work so hard to not have us have a nationality here. You understand what I'm saying? Why they want to always say we have no culture here, but then everybody else in the world is imitating us and our culture from here. So as you see, 250-million-year-old piece of Africa found in southeastern United States. Larger portions may still be discovered. That's because we were here when the whole thing was together. And before that, you understand what I'm saying? Before the dispensation of the moon, before all of this type of stuff, our people was here. They want to say that we descend from these other people, Lucy and all these people, but while the Homo erectus, the monkey that they want to say that you come from, Lucy, was in the continent that they refer to as Africa, we have the genetic markers of people like Henrietta Lacks, that, and then from her, that's the matriarchal side. Then on the patriarchal side, we got people like Albert Perry and the Perry family in South Carolina, which would then represent the southeastern portion, right, of this place that goes back over 1,000,000 years. Between the two of them, go back over 1,000,000 years. If we was to put both of their DNA historical aspects together and then fuse that with the the trans epigenetic inheritance that them and all of their descendants and the rest of us that was already born here have within us. So all of this we come from other people shit is fake. It's a scam. It's another scam that they want to impose on us, so that way they can continue to use what makes us great to their benefit. Unfortunately, like I said, we're at the stage now where none of this is working. So our brothers and sisters from the different portions or the different parts of the world that have this, you know what I'm saying, that share our phenotypes and stuff like that, but customarily are different due to how they were raised, due to what they were told about themselves, and this, and that. It still doesn't change the fact that we all share a inheritance together, right? That is actually more stronger if we would accept that, you know what I mean, as a group. However, we have been put at the bottom of all of these other groups who still try to make up shit and try to make it like they're somehow better than us because, you know, they came from this area or they come from this island or whatever. But then they don't stay in their islands, they don't stay in their places. They always come up here with us, right? And then try to take our place and then try to say then that we are lazy or we don't have that. And see, this is what I'm saying. Like that type of arrogance, right, in the face of your country being colonized is crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy that you would still have and fix your face to do stuff like that when we don't go to y'all countries and do that. And when we do, we get called out or killed. Like I said, they will kill us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not making this up. They be killing Americans when they go, melanated Americans go to these other people countries and try to blend in and try to bring money to get taken advantage of. Niggas try to kill them. Yet there's no outrage about that. What's up with that? You see what I'm saying? These are the things that need to be addressed, but never are. And so we have to stand up for ourselves where we are to let these niggas know that no, it's not like that. Y'all don't have it sewn up. We are the ones who led the global fight against these niggas for freedom. So you can keep bringing up Haiti, you can keep bringing up all of that, but again, a lot of them Haitians and all of that, a lot of them came from the mainland too, from here too. Where's St. Louis? Where's old St. Louis? Where's old Paris? That's over here. That's mainland here. Louisiana. That's mainland here. You know what I'm saying? So we have more, we can do more together than apart. It's just that they want to continuously make it like everybody else is better than us. And then if we say, no, that's not the case, then somehow or another, we're like disrespecting them. But they be the first ones to come out and tell us how we don't have no culture, we don't have this, we don't have that. But these niggas got their own country, right? And still never have not got it to the point where they are actually in control of their countries. So until they deal with that, we got to understand that we are a monolith amongst all of the melanated people, because all the melanated people on earth look to us here. And that's a fact. This is not ego. This is not, I'm saying we're better than that. I'm just saying for a fact, they all look to us here. So the new thing is to try to, again, make Moors look like, yeah, please make sure everybody's muted so that way there's no reverb and nothing. I feel I shouldn't have to tell everybody that. I check it periodically to make sure everybody's out, so that way it doesn't mess up the feed for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So again, this is not to be off anybody or to make anybody seem whatever. We just got to make sure that we stand up for what we know is right. You know what I mean? Because again, the world looks to us as the beat for culture. When the Iranians took all of them niggas hostage in the 70s, what did they say? Who they let go? They didn't let all them white people go. Who they let go? They let us go. The so-called black Americans. Why? Because the niggas like El Haj Malik Shabazz, whom they put on a stamp. You know what I'm saying? And let all of them go. Because they know that we've been being held hostage by this fake government, this insurgency, this junta, you know what I'm saying, that's been going on since 1871. And so they let us go. And you think them Moors, when they got let go, you think they was waiting to get the white people, they was advocating for them white people to go? Nope. Them niggas got right on the plane and came right back home. The white folk was heated. State Department was heated behind that. But hey, first in time, first in line. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I did hear about the drone strike in Haiti. That's also a part of the insurgency out there because, again, the Haitian government sold out its people many, many years ago. Back even before the Tonton Macoute, back when they killed their own emperor, the Sanye. They still have never publicly came out as a group and actually ask forgiveness for him or his descendants or whoever else for forgiveness for betraying their emperor. And any country who betrays their monarchy, whether it be Russia, whether it be Ethiopia, whether it be whoever, anybody who do that, they suffer for years and years and years after. So that's on them. You know what I'm saying? They got to handle that within themselves. So they don't have control of their country. You know what I'm saying? I feel bad for the actual Haitian people because they're great people. However, they again fell into a sub idea that can be traced back to something that the Spanish had established called blanqueamiento. Blanqueamiento. That's what it's called. There's another Spanish version of that where they say "Mejora la raza," meaning expand the race. clean up the race by being white, because back in the days, this in the British colonies was basically status wise. Everybody was status wise. The Spanish couldn't be as cavalier with as strict with their breeding rules and stuff like that. So you could come up if you interbreeded with one of the slave class, i.e., the whites. So they did that. And so that became a way for them to come up. So that instinctively started to fall into the idea mind pattern of the people, that if they found a way to help bleach themselves, that they could come up as a group, as a people. You understand? So as you see here, Granada was always in America, as well as what they call South America and Central America. Granada was always over here. The Granada over there was a satellite colony that we set up to help civilize the Gran Canarios, right? Who are the dog people that we spoke about a couple of videos ago. And after the concerted fall, a lot of those Moors that stayed out there weren't able to come back to mainland because they had been infected. And a lot of these niggas started to actually look at these things as their property and wanted to breed with them, and started to work with the grafting on them, and then started to use them as dogs of war to come over here and force their way back into our nobilities and royalties over here. And that led to what uh in the book The Light and the Truth was referred to as the Moorish Wars, right? Which were the wars that basically plunged the rest of the world into destruction. uh my son God 777 said, did you see Nick Fuentes asking the blacks for help after all the best he and Charlie Kirk talked? Yes, because Nick Fuentes is one of these Gran Canarios. He descend from them. He's a little one of the homosexual dog people, one of the ones I'm talking about. He descend from them type of people. But broken clock is right twice a day. And it's not to say that because he's a racist that everything that he say is not necessarily, there's not merit to some of it. There is. Everybody got something to contribute. You know what I'm saying? To the overall situation and shit. It's just that when you try to embellish and then make it like we're supposed to be under you for whatever reason, and you're using these outmoded forms of conjecture like race and class and these things when y'all niggas didn't even have names. You understand? These niggas didn't even have names at one point in time in history. So we got to eat the meat and spit out the bones when it comes to stuff like that. Yes, same thing. That's what it comes down to. A lot of these people were just on the opposite side of the historical narrative, and now because they know that they have all of these different things against us, they trying to flip it. Like some of the black history that we learned, some of that was fake, some of that was staged. You know what I'm saying? Um, and anything that they put under the context of black, you got to look at kind of sideways anyway. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're calling it black so that way it's not tied to a nationality. So anything not tied to a national identity can be mixed up and flipped up to somebody else's objective, which is usually to keep you denationalized so that way you don't focus on who and what you are. So going back to the book, The Light and the Truth, where it says that the Mangroon is all black, full-blooded, whole Negro. The Sambo is 3/4 blood, right? This is where we get the Spanish shit from. The Sambo, right? It was spelled Sambo and it's also spelled Zambo. So the S and the Z was interchangeable. The Mulatto, which means mutt, right? Is half blood, one half Negro. Then the Quadroon, right? This is the 1/4 blood. This is where a lot of the Creole peoples and what they call the French Arcadians fall under this. This was all under the Spanish racial hierarchy thing, under the Blanqueamiento system. Then the mestizo. These are the straight white looking niggas like John Leguizamo and what's the bitch name? Corio Cortez, the liar that's in Congress right now, that says that the only way she's on camera saying that the only way that they can move forward is by making things harder for the American people. She's a straight traitor. They're all treasonous. You know what I'm saying? They're all traitors. They're all bought and paid for. They're all on tape somewhere, eating children, cannibalizing children, having sex with animals. These are the type of people that are made to rule. You understand? The lowest of the low. That's why they put them in the highest of the high. And nobody that's around anybody like that can be trusted. So you can't pick and choose and be like, well, Denzel ain't really with them, even though he did movie. No, no, no. If he is with these niggas constantly, if he's doing movies with Harvey Weinstein or whoever the hell else, he's down with it. You understand? We got to stop picking and choosing because we like these niggas' movies or they comic books or they books or they personalities. You understand? They're all down with it. They're not gonna have you around people who are cannibals if you're not cannibal adjacent. You dig? Niger, a Latin word. See, Niger is not even an African word. Niger is not even an African word. It's not even French. It's Latin. You heard? It's Latin. The word was formerly used by the Moors. See the line? Whenever you see the line in something like this, they leaving shit out. They're using this as an injunctive to basically hide a bunch of stuff dealing with these Moors, right? The Moors, i.e., the old Romans. See that? See that? The old Romans, to designate any black inferior object, a plant, a marsh, a flat, moist ground, bog, or animal. These were the dog people. You understand? That they were referring to. They are the original blacks or blanks or blanquitos. You understand what I'm saying? This is them. The Canarios. This is them. Okay? Micah, the Mordechite, who was the prophet of the Moors. That's why nobody ever talk. You ever notice when they talk about the Bible, they never talk about the book of Micah? You never heard a priest mention the book of Micah, never talk about the book of Micah. Never. Never. You've never gone to Sunday school, never seen a pastor, never seen any of these niggas. Geno Jenkins, none of them. They never mention Micah. You notice that? You notice that. Anyway, Micah, the Mordechite, who was the prophet of the Moors, prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, who were the Moors. Okay? Who were the Moors? Saying thus, saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, which is a forest. Micah showeth the wrath of God against Jacob for idolatry. Jacob was the one who gave up the 12 so-called sons or tribes that dealt with the grafting of the brown and the speckled calf, according to Genesis. These are the grafted people. These were the people who were chosen by their false god to cross over, right, the great river and try to bring that shit back over here with us, and we was not having it. But because they were also connected to us by blood, we had to deal with them and their progeny, which was their creatures, their creations of law. Mosereth was built by the Moors in the desert of Paran, right? In the land of Amalek. Who do the Jews today, the Ashkenazim Jews, who do they say they are here to destroy? They're here to destroy the sons of Amalek, right? Well, I'm showing you that the sons of Amalek are the Moors, whom they say were evil, whom they say were the ones who was destroying and doing idolatry and all this other type of shit. But they are saying this. The niggas who is eating and killing babies today is the ones telling us that we was doing that. So how are we supposed to even take what any of these niggas say about us as the truth? How can we do that? Right? And the ancient encampment of Israel in the days of Moses, in the Moorish War of Adel in Africa. Remember, Africa, again, could mean excuse me, for us Moors, when we talk about Africa, we have to go to the Circle 7, to the Moorish Holy Quran, Circle 7, chapter 47, where it talks about the dominions of Egypt and Africa. So they talking about over here, not over there. The satellite kingdoms and all that shit. Some of the books of Moses were burnt. Moriah, Mount Moriah, a hill adjacent to Jerusalem on the northeast, here, y'all, here, not over there, here. Abraham offered his son when Solomon built the temple on it, and it was included. In medieval times, the name Moor was not restricted to the inhabitants of Morocco, but it was customary to refer to all Africans as Moors, meaning all Americans, people melanated from here, as Moors. There was no Indians during the time of so-called Moses and Micah and Yeshua, and there was no Indians then. What are you talking about? You understand? There was no, they say that they Israelites, they say that they Egyptians, right? But we just showed and proved that the Israelites and the Egyptians and the Judites and the Amalekites, all of these was Moors having problems with each other. So where did the Indians come in? Tell me that. Where's the Indians at? Because y'all want to be everything else. Y'all want to be everything else in the world. Right? We're gonna pick and choose. We're gonna be everything else but what we are. It's sick. They're crazy. Get the book Time Walker, and he tells you exactly where Mount Moriah is. It's here. It's over here. It's right here. It's right here. So they tripping. They picking and choosing. Yes. The highly ambiguous word Negro had not yet been invented. You hear that? We existed before the word Negro was even invented. So they're liars. So when the white man wrote Negro on your birth certificate, that was a misnomer, the same way Indian was, because these was fake names these crossover Hebrews was using to get away from their true nationality, because they wanted to take over the lands of the Moors during the Moorish Wars of Abdel. Got it? So they're traitors. So when you called yourself an Indian, you were basically a traitor. You're going against the greater empire that was all over the world, that was now fracturing due to the infighting that was happening due to the fact that a certain group of us was starting to graft and create these things that were basically creatures of law, monsters, beasts, right, that we was using to inflict war on other ones. So because there was more of us against it than was with that, so they had to build up their armies by using these beasts against us. You got it? We're reading what happened. We know from the contemporary records which have come down. This is a book you can get, Africa and the Civilizing of Europe, right? We know from the contemporary records which have come down to us from the era of medieval Moorish supremacy, and that the Moors did not consider themselves as white men. An interesting discussion of this point may be found in many of the valuable works of who? Professor J.B.S. Haldane, as follows. We are accustomed to hearing the superiority of Europeans, that it is perhaps worthy quoting that the Moorish writer said of Toledo, who wrote that at the time Toledo was in Moorish hands, describing the people who lived north of the Pyrenees, right? That's over here. Napoleon was said to have said that Africa begins at the foot of the Pyrenees. I just showed you a map and an article that said Africa was all the way over here on the southwestern portion of the United States. So we just debunked over 2,000 years of these niggas' history in 2 minutes. They are the cold temperament and never reach maturity. They ate of great stature and of white color, but they lack sharpness to wit and penetration of intellect. We must remember that 700 years ago, such a point of view had least imperial justification, for at the time trigonometry was being studied at Toledo. Isn't Toledo over here in Ohio? Isn't it? While in Europe, a man was regarded as learned if he had got as far as the fifth proposition in the first book of Euclid, Hereditary and Politics, page 138-139 by J.B.S. Hallandale. Even the Arabs, who were always a minority in so-called Arab culture in the Middle Ages, regarded a dark complexion as a badge of honor. The primitive Arabs who were ruling element in the Umayyad Caliphate called themselves the Swarthi people, with a connection to the racial superiority and their Persian and Turkish subjects, who with the ruddy people with a connotation of racial inferiority. That's it. Boom. On the folio, what does it say? The red, white, and blue feathered hat, the gold rosettes and ornaments in front of the forehead, and the beak of pure gold. The term Moorish, as here applied, and can scarcely be regarded as a deceptive one, inasmuch as Montezuma, the king of the Temestian in Mexico, is subsequently designated as a Moorish king, not an Aztec king, not a Mayan king, a Moorish king, in the same inventory in I-586. But what does it say? In the interesting note, the gradual changes that occur in the wording is subsequently periodically official registrations of this Moorish hat. In 1613, the description faithfully reproduced, but in 1620 the word Indian is substituted for Moorish. So anybody calling themselves Indian was now taking a false designation and standing against the old Moorish Empire that birthed them. Period. That's it, because there is no Indian. That place called India didn't become that until the 1900s. That was Indus. That was the Harappan Indus place. And that was under the jurisdiction of the Moors, who were ruling it under the Mauryan dynasty. You can read that in the book Salamagundi by the magnificent Prince Uriel Bey, who created the geodetic Moorish survey that is protected by the Department of Homeland Security. So if it's fake and we're not what we say we are, how is it that the same devil government that you niggas is always bending over for to get Indian benefits from know and protect the copyright of that and any Moors who seek to obtain it? You can't get it as no Indian. They'll lock you up. Because the Moors are the Americans. Oh, well, you can't be Moorish and American because ish mean like. No, ish denotes nationality, idiot. Stop reading modern dictionaries that is printed by McGraw-Hill. That's printed by the small hats. They making you stupid. This is why they don't want you to have nothing to do with Moorish identity and all of that, because it trumps everybody else's bullshit. It trumps everybody's crap that they try to throw on us to say that we're not who we are. That's why. They always want us to be something or somebody else. They always want us to give the glory to something or somebody else. Why? You don't do that to nobody else. You only do that to us, because we're the ones with the true right and claim to the land. That's what they don't want to deal with. I showed this before. This is from the CIA internal maps. The same CIA that blew up the buildings, that's working with the small hats, that's trying to plunge us all into hell, right? The same ones that was on that Jeffrey had on speed dial. These niggas. Look where they say, look where they got Morocco at. Look where they got Morocco at. Why would they call Indian tribes barbarous? Why would they call the distribution of the barbarous tribes east of the Mississippi? This is the same place that we saw the 250 million year old piece of Africa. So this is Africa right here we talking about, y'all. This is Africa, America. This is Moorish African Americans. This is where we are right here, right? For the slow people. We already here. That's why the prophet was able to put it in the express trust, aka the circle, the holy circle 7, and gave us the dimensions and the boundary lines of the dominion. Linked it all up back together. What are these niggas is doing? Trying to rip it all apart. Here go the list of kings that was here, right? All the way going back all the way to 521 AD. They'll tell you about Mansa Musa. They'll tell you about Shaka. They'll tell you about all of these niggas over there. Ask them about one king from over here. There were no kings. We didn't have it. What are you talking about? Then why we got pictures of all of these dudes with crowns on? So this seemed like a lot. And this is before 492. This is before 700. It's more than this. Look where they got Fez. Look where they got Marrakesh. Look where they got Casablanca. Look where they got Rabat. All of this, right? Because they transplanted it over there after 1956. They say, oh, that exotic map of the United States, that was fake because, you know, that was from a joke map. Yes, the best truth is said in jest, idiot. They keep telling you that. I just showed and proved to you they have a whole order called the Royal Order of Jesters that come out of the Shriners. The same niggas acting like and lampooning your birthright. And all of them places happen to still be here. There is no Wakanda over there. There's like 7 different Wakandas over here. The fact they got to work this hard to constantly try to knock us out of our position should let you know how great your position really is in the world, man. This is the problem. We just be so out here trying to be down and just be cool with everybody. We can't be cool with everybody no more, man. They don't want to be cool with you. They want to own you. They want to claim you. They want what you have. They don't want to be with you. They don't want to stand with you. They want to embody your culture. They want to come over here and get all of the gifts your ancestors set up for you, but they don't want to share none of what they got with you. When the Haitian, this show and prove what I'm saying. If they took you from Africa like that, right? Let's take us out of it. Let's just look at the Haitians. When the Haitians applied to the African Union for admitting into African Union, right? What happened? They told them niggas no, because y'all not African. But these are the niggas that now want to put in paperwork to now say that that they need to get reparation for the slave trade. Wasn't you the one selling us? How does that work? How do the niggas that sold you now trying to come up and act like they got the right to now speak on and get reparations for slavery from you? That don't make no sense. It don't make sense because it's not true. They are down with it. They are a part of that whole thing I was telling you about, that blanquito amiento, the mejor, excuse me, the mejor, excuse me, my Spanish is messed up. The mejor la raza, which is again, marry white people to become light skinned, inbreed with each other to stay light skinned. That's why they constantly vote for being white. This is why on the old paperwork, North Africans were seen as white, because white was the caste that they were trying to get the Moroccans to identify with. You understand? And they got nothing to do with people from Europa, because them people from Europa in power was dark-skinned and albino melanated people. That's where the albinism and all of that was coming from them, from breeding with the dogs. Okay? That's what they were doing. And then once they had enough of them in there, they started to flip it. Started to use them as decoys and dogs of war to do their bidding for them. You understand? And the Lus were the ones who were helping them do it, because they were the ones whom they gave that version of Roman Catholicism to. If we go back, right, it would begin. All of this really started with when what we would refer to as West African cosmology, or cosmogeny, or cosmic Western African, meaning old ancient Moorish eschatology, right? That is now coming from the original Nile, the Nile over here with the 6 rivers. That's us over here. And then from there, that flowed out into what they call the Canaanite myths, right? The myths of people like El and Asherah, right? Which then translate further into the Sumerian myths, right? Then from there we go into what they would consider a proto meditative spirit logistics. So now we're bringing in people from today we refer to as the Levantines, right? They're now bringing all of their animistic type of things, their totemic theologies, right? This is where they're bringing all of the spirit animal type stuff, right? Where they're now using the essences of like serpentine Naga culture, okay? This is now bringing in the idea of God as like a proverbial presence amongst us, right? A source, like an essence that we are all participating in, not under. You understand? This is the time periods now I'm showing you that's taking place from 521 to about 763 to 810 here. Okay, so this is the areas I'm talking about here. So from there now we're dealing with this essence of spirit, right? So nobody is talking about, oh, you gotta be salvaged, you have to have salvation. None of this exists. There's no atonement for nothing. There's no, if you do something wrong, you get whipped, you get ostracized, exiled. There's no covenants. None of this stuff exists at this point we talk about. There's no orthodox style obedience to some higher preeminence of God. you and I are literally making and manifesting within the essence of what God is during this period. Okay, none of this other stuff they talking about exists at this point, right? Then so now we go into about 1200 to about 955 BCE. Now you getting these Hebrew polytheistic niggas that's now coming out of this. This is around this right before the Moorish Wars of Abdel start. So now these guys is now bringing in the whole Yahweh thing, because now Yahweh is just one God. That's the storm God that is really manifestation for nomadic people. He's a manifestation of nomadic people. So because they had to sleep out in the dirt and the skies because they rejected the high civilizations that wasn't dealing with any of this pre dispensationism stuff they was dealing with, they had to be exiled. So they was out in the woods, they was out in the fields, they was out in the deserts, right? So they would always pray and want a good weather pattern so that way they could do that. So they manifest Yahweh. So Yahweh is a storm god at this point. He's not the all god at this point. You understand? He's not an all god. He's just a god of the storm that will keep them from getting rained on and getting washed away in floods and all of that, right? So then from there they get into the fact that the people who are teaching them that these guys are holy. And so this is where now the tribal ancestor worship stuff is starting with them. And then from there now, these tribal dudes who are now into this ancestral worship of the guys who gave them the stories about how to bring the storm and to appease Yahweh. These are the niggas who then start to create councils, right? And these councils, these are just regular dudes. They start to create folklore around this, and they start create charms, right? And start creating different spells and different types of things that they can convince people that they have power, which they really don't have. You understand? And now with this power that they're trying to teach everybody and trying to convince them that they got, now they're seen as the holy dudes. This is the precursor to the priests. Okay? So this is also, if we was in a Bible, this would be like a pre-Exodus phase, right? So this is before niggas is actually having to actually move, right? Because of what I said. They're constantly going back and forth with each other, not really understanding, because now they're starting to take their spirituality and condense it into a form of control, of what would be control over the people. You understand? This is where all of this shit is coming from now. This is where it's going. So now, like I said, they start to get into tribal worship, and they start to get into ancestral worship, because now the dudes who's telling them this, they're holy. So now when they're dead, they got to do these ceremonies for them, and then they got to keep the people together, because remember, they're nomadic people. They're nomadic people, so they got to find a way to keep all of their people together. So the way to keep them together is to make them believe that the ones that's passing away is the ones that's now giving them the knowledge. You see what I'm saying? And you got to keep the spirits together and all of this other type of shit. So we got to do rituals. We got to do sacraments. You see what I'm saying? They start creating this shit. So now these guys, they now become the ones that everybody is basically giving alms to, and giving sacrifice, what becomes sacrifices to, and all this other type of crap. You understand? You see where it's going? you see what I'm saying? You see where it's going? So now this is now bringing them into more of a tribalistic way of thinking, a tribalistic view of the world, because their people are the only ones doing this. Everybody else in the world is doing their own thing. We're dealing with the high sciences of I, self, law, and master, not as a religion, but as a lifestyle option. You understand? We are self, and through self, Allah, which is the arm, leg, arm, head, a manifestation of the higher self can exist, that all things, that the true essence can experience itself through in a third, fourth, fifth dimension, right? So then, boom, we now go from this point into around like anywhere from like 925, 950 to about 750, 850, right? Now we get the Yahwehists, because now these niggas, now they trying to move on everybody, right? So now they now come, God is now Yahweh, right? God is now a personal thing. God now has a a body, right? God now has a mind. God is now jealous. God now has emotions. You understand what I'm saying? And now God says that it needs to have things the way that it wants it to have. This is the first time this is happening, right? That's different from the Elohimists, right? The old Moors, the ancient Moors of the Eels, right? Because they understand that God manifests through the physical, but is not necessarily physical, right? God manifests through an arm, leg, arm, head. God is our self-Lord master, yet man is master of his own domain. So there is no higher than thou and all this other shit that they're trying to now push on everybody, right? So now this is now going against what the people in like the Aboriginal people dealing with the dream time, us being able to transcend the different dimensions, us being able to look at stars, literally project ourselves there, astral projection, all this type of shit we was actually doing. Now this is under threat from these materialists who we can call Yahwehists, right? Who are now trying to come at you and now trying to condense you and bring their storm god to you, because now their storm god needs to become the god. But remember, these niggas are all idol worshippers. They're all pagans. The Yahweh might as well be Wotan. You know what I'm saying? Wotan, Yahweh might as well be Odan. You understand? It might as well be Storm from the X-Men. You know what I'm saying? At this point, this is what they're trying to impose on everybody now, because we're not with all of this extra nomadic shit that they've been now trying to build and put everybody in, right? So then from this, the mortality, right, through the ritual, the righteousness, right? Ritual now is above righteousness, right? Justice is now second to obedience, right? Sacrifice is now above selflessness. You understand? And now this is now where we get into the big fight. This is now where we're warring with each other, because we're not having that. The rest of us is not with this shit. You understand? The rest of us is like, nah, we not dealing with that. We dealing with this, right? Brother said, is that who they are trying to bring down by blowing the world up? It really is Baal, but Baal is just another version, if you will, of the same type of entity to me. You know what I'm saying? It's all pretty much the same. Hold on one second, y'all. One second. Okay, everybody following what I'm saying though, right? Where all of this is going. Because we're going through basically how they basically just created all of these false religions and fake gods when we already had it all worked out. Because the time when we began, this is going back before Mu, before Atlantis, and all this other type of stuff that they always be trying to get us transfixed in. You know what I'm saying? So we're moving all of this through, right? We're going through these epochs, right? So then, boom, from there, knowledge of self now is now secondary, because now the Yahweh is, now we start getting into Genesis, we start getting into Exodus, right? Because remember, all of this is happening pre-Kemet, all of that, right? So now Kemet is already here. Kemet starts turning into Egyptus, right? Egyptus starts going into Mizraim. Mizraim starts going into Israel, right? So now in Israel is what? The combination of all of the deities that they're dealing with, which is Isis, right? Who is our Set, who is also Ishtar, who is also Semiramis, right? Because Semiramis was the daughter of Cush, right? And then they marry, and then she winds up marrying they son, who is Nimrod, who is also Gilgamesh, who is the G in who becomes the hunter, who is a Sagittarius, so he becomes the hunter of men, right? So he's a beast. Because remember, Sagittarius is half man, half beast, like a centaur. So he's a beast, and he creates the first prisons. These prisons are what we call cities, Because we didn't live in cities before that. Before that, we lived in these ultra high dimensional expanses where everybody had their own. The cities then became an interconnected matrix type network that then the energy of the people could be harvested to give up to the main god, who in this case was Nimrod, who then became Gilgamesh, who is the first master builder, the first so-called Freemason, which is why the G for Gilgamesh is inside of the compass and the square. That's who y'all niggas is worshiping. A nigga who is the son who married his mother. So technically, he not only married his mother, so his mother technically was his sister. Which is why these niggas deal with so much chicanery and sexual deviancy. You understand? Because it's inbred in the mind state that it takes for you to be a part of that shit. Okay? So then from there, we go from from knowledge itself, like I said. So now we getting information from all of they false gods. So now niggas is burning bushes and all of that. So now you get people like Musa, who is now coming from one state, but then decides he is of another state because of his original heritage, and so he betrays his so-called Comesian heritage. His Comesian heritage, and then goes into another so-called Hebrew. He crosses over, right? He crosses over into that. So then boom, from there, about 720, 500 to about, from about 725 to about 550, 650 BCE. Now we're going to get the law bringers, the Deuteronomists, the Leviticus dudes, the Levites, right? They are now starting to bring we getting rid of all of the spiritual stuff. Now we committing all of it to paper because we can't trust nobody's word. So now we got to force people to get into the doctrine. Now we're going to put the word of God into the work, into the actual writing, and then we're going to enslave everybody to that. So now we get to the legal obedience. We getting into the punishment for dissent of opinions. We purging anybody that's not with what we telling them. We dealing with traditional. We getting into blood feuds. We getting into genocidal shit. Where now we going into Canaan. We burning up. We killing all of the men and the women. We're raping the women, right? That's what it says in the Bible they did, right? Didn't it say that Yahweh told them to go into Canaan, kill all the men, rape all the women, kill all the children? Didn't it say that? After when Musa went up to the burning bush and was trying to bring them the law, then he bring it back down. And when he brought it back down, wasn't they eating their children, worshiping Hathor, who was Baal, the cow god, right? Making all of the gold that was given to them so that way they could have money to set up their own properties? No. So now what we got to do, we got to go and steal these people's land. We're going to tell them that the Moabites was evil and the Amalekites was evil and all of these other Moors was evil. All because they wasn't worshiping the way that these niggas decided they should be worshiping. Because remember, the people whose land they went into, they already had an expanse. They already had a culture. They already had their own spirituality. We're only getting the understanding of what the Hittites, the Moabites, the rest of these people, from the people who came and slaughtered them. You understand? We're only getting the true history of what they tell us, the true history of these people from the people who came in there and killed them all. And they still doing it. And they still doing it, right? They talk about Muhammad married Khadijah when she was this or that, but what about Rebecca? She was 3 years old, or when what's his name married her. When one of their patriarchs or whoever these niggas was. They was talking about raping and killing children, burning them. They was already eating their own children, according to their stories now. So then this is where, so then after they killed Canaan, this is now when they decided we're the chosen people because we have chosen our people above everybody else. And now purity is enforced by rituals, right? Policy is enforced by covenants, blood covenants, right? The forced identity of the nation now has to be established on the blood and the backs of the people whose nations they took over, right? Now they're conquering. They've appointed their own people. They then what they start to do is start altering the paperwork that they already altered. So now they start to backdate shit. They start to create other dates, create other histories, create people who didn't even exist, right? To obfuscate the kingdom histories of the places that they had already conquered. You understand? You understand? Yes, because remember, in the Comesian cosmogony, Jeb, right, was the earth god, who was the man. Nut was the sky goddess, who was the female. And their hands and the tips of their fingers would touch, and the tips of their toes would touch. In the new dispensation, God, Yahweh, was now in the sky, right? Right? And then the female was now brought low. See what I'm saying? To the earth, where she could be controlled. You understand? So then this is where we get Joshua and the judges and then the kings, right? And now we're really in war. So then all of this happens. All of these wars is being fought, right? All of these secret societies is fighting with each other. All of these other Moors is going at each other. The devils is being grafted. They grafting the jinns. They grafting everybody else. And then eventually they get shut down, right? What's his name come in the Babylonian captivity and shut it all down. They all get shut down. They all get dragged away. And then they temples get destroyed, right? He destroyed the temples. He locked them up in Babylon, right? He destroys them utterly. And then what happened? Do they stay in Babylon? Do they no? While they in Babylon, do they repent? No. What do? They start working on other shit. They start studying Babylonian magic. They start getting into that, right? They start getting into Babylonian magic. They start trying to figure out how they could start to use that as a means of control. So that way when they leave, they know what they could do. And so they start doing it, right? They start practicing the Babylonian magics. They start getting into the soul swapping. They start getting into the blood sacrificing even more now, because that's what they's doing in Babylon. And then what happens to Babylon? It eventually falls, right? And then what's his name come? And then the Persian king come. Who was it? Sargon the Great? Yeah, and he lets them go. Right? But remember, they never had their own. They was always leeching off of somebody else. So these Deuteronomists, these animists, these Babylonian Freemasons, these pagans, these so-called Israelites, all of these niggas, right? They start bouncing, but before they go, they set up their own priesthood. This is the Sadducees. This becomes the Sadducees. This becomes the Pharisees, right? Well, we didn't get to them yet. I'll get to them in a second. Anyway, so from then, they rewrite everything again. Then they start mixing Babylonian magic into the so-called thing that we today understand as the Bible. And this is where we get the whole Genesis creation and the 6 days of creation and all of this other shit they start putting on us. Then they start bringing in the human sacrifice and all of that, start putting that in there. Start creating people like Abraham and the rest of these people, right? So then eventually Babel falls. Persia comes out of that. Then the Zoroastrians come, right? Because this is another version of the same people, just different, right? Just a different reworking of it. So now these Zoroastrians, they now start bringing Mithra into it. They start bringing Mithra. They started bringing Zarathustra. They start mixing all of that with the Israelite Babylonianism, and then they start to practice a form of contemporary magic. Today occultists were referred to as Persian duality. And then this is where we get now the merging of what used to be the essence of God broken down into little gods, little g gods that now manifest as angels or jinns or demons or Satan, right? And then we start creating the difference. We start using the sky god and the earth god in the form of heaven and hell, right? And now we're stuck in between those two worlds. So now this creates a what? A system of duality that was manifested out of the worship of Zoroaster, which again deals with what? Persian duality, going back and forth, left and right, up and down, right? Good and evil, God and the devil, Satan, Jesus. You understand? This is how it's working. This is how they got you. Then boom, from there, they established the temple administrations to be able to disseminate this to everybody under their dominion. And then they create armies to then perpetuate this. Right? So this is now when we get into the book of shit like Chronicles or Zechariah or Malachi, right? Ezra, Nehemiah. This is where this shit comes in. So this is between like the first and the second temple. So then when the second temple starts, now we're fully into Roman Judaism, right? Because now Roman Judaism is now the thing that we're going to use to maintain this. So now this is when they set up what they call the 10 kingdoms, which is the 10-headed beast, right? These 10 kingdoms also become the 10 churches, right? Which then get reduced to the 7 churches of Asia that niggas like Paul start going to, right? So from here, these pagans who used to be Israelites, who are Zoroastrians, who are Babylonians, who are pagans, who are Mithrists, who are Deuteronomists, who are Yahwehists, right? Who are all these different people. All of these different things is being smashed together and being now, these parts are being put in this Bible. So now they create different factions. So now we got the Sadducees, we got the Essenes, we got the Maccabees, we got the Habakkuk's, we got the Pharisees, we got the Greek philosophers, we got the apocalyptic niggas like John the Revelator, right? Because then we got to bring, again, duality. So we have to have the beginning and then we have to have the end. That's why people is caught up between Genesis and Revelation, right? So then, boom, we get all of that together. Then we mix that with we put all of that inside 2 pieces of bread, and on one under the bottom part of the bread is Zoroastrianism, right? With all of this shit I said in the middle, and then on the top of that is Roman Praetorianism, right? So it's one big pagan sandwich. So you see how far we have fallen from the original understanding. But then what happens? Yeshua comes. So now Yeshua is bringing back the old pre-dynastic reliance on self-awareness. The individual has accountability for what he does. Love is the first principle, right? Common sense over obedience, right? This is what Yeshua is bringing back, right? Maintaining your own worldview as opposed to the brainwashing of cults, right? Empowering your soul now. Take a responsibility for what you are doing to decide who you're going to be, not who they tell you you're meant to be, right? Through knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the inner light, the soul becoming the essence of the man. The human, the soul having a human experience instead of the human embodying the soul. You understand? That's a problem. We can't deal with that. So what happened? We get rid of this nigga. We cut him off. We cut off the idea of that, but we can't get rid of it. So we're going to adopt it. So what do? They get Paul, right? They get Paul to come in. And what does Paul do? He now brings back the same stuff, but by using Yeshua as the shield, right? So now what does he do? He brings in the sin. He says, oh, he died for all of our sins. But when you read the book, he said he only came to the children of Israel, the people who started the bullshit in the first place. Right? But no, he expands it the same way they expanded Yahweh. Yahweh was just a storm god. By this time, Yahweh is the God of all gods. Right? But the people in the cults know that he's just another name for Baal or Molech or Ishtar or Semiramis or Gilgamesh, right? Or any of the other ones that they dealing with. Or Dagon, right? Or any of the Hyperborean gods that these niggas that we had phased out during the first Moorish Wars, right? But what does Paul do? The Pauline doctrine comes in and it says, boom, the sin is everybody's born in sin. Why? Because everybody is born under a sun or a moon. Sin is the sinew wave. Sinewave. It also is another name for the moon. So some of us, yes, are born in sin if we're born at night. Right? But now he says, no, all of you are dead. And in order to do this, we need to bathe you in the blood of Jesus Christ. So now we're bringing back the human sacrifice, right? Now you have to drink blood. Now you have to be a vampire in order to establish your divinity, when Yeshua never said nothing about that. So they took what he said symbolically and turned it into a blood ritual, right? Then boom, now Jesus becomes cosmic. Now through him, Paul gets to write, render unto Caesar. Now he gets, in one of his little parables, he writes that Yeshua says what? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar. So now what does that mean? So now the same niggas who slaughtered Yeshua, now Yeshua is basically, in his words, through Paul, is now giving them credit and saying, no, you should give Caesar what it belongs to him. So now, in essence, they trying to get Yeshua to co-sign the niggas that killed him. Yo, it's a dirty game, son. Sin means moon. Somebody look up a sinewave, Sinewave, and then post what it means in the chat. Right? So then boom, just like when they said Adam was made out of Eve was made out of Adam's rib. Rib is a ribosome. Somebody look up what a ribosome is. Ribosmoe. So boom, we get the Roman canon. Look at what they call it. They call it a canon. They say when everything is codified, it's in a canon. You use canon to shoot people, right? So these Roman canons becomes the justification of paganism through Yeshua. Yes, ribosomes are essential non-membrane bound molecular machines composed of ribosomal RNA proteins acting as the primary protein factories in all living cells. They translate genetic information from messenger RNA to mRNA into amino acid chains to synthesize proteins in vital process in gene expression. Hence why Eve was given Adam's rib. She was given Adam's ribosomes so that way she could pass on the epigenetic inheritance that came from the patrilineal side of the DNA. Not the actual physical rib that the McGrill Hill and the rest of these niggas that made us think in the stories. So now through all of this, now they done made Jesus basically a factor, a proponent of Greek dualism. From the Greek dualism, what do we get? Who translated the Bible? The Greeks, right? But the Greeks were Hellenists, right? And the Hellenists were pagans, right? But Yeshua spoke Aramaic. So how come we not reading the Aramaic translation of what it is? Because then we would get actual manifestations of the real thought. So we can't do that. So we got to get it back into the Greek dualism, which is going to bring us back into the Persian dualism, which is then going to put it all under Roman Praetorianism. Right? So by this time, Yeshua's teachings have now become Judeo-Christian teachings, which are basically all now falling under a new form of Ptolemaic paganism, because Ptolemy, the Ptolemaic line, was allegedly descended from him, and this again is a true Moorish Mauritanian line. So they started to persecute the Ptolemies as true descendants of Jesus, and then they started to put them through rituals like that. So they had to leave the colonies, and all of them came over here. You can get the book The Lost Treasures of King Juba to get more science on that. So then from there, Paul replaces Jesus, and then he dispensates this to all of the 7 churches in Asia. We're not even in Europe yet. All of this is in Asia and parts of Africa, what they call Africa. We didn't even get to Europa yet. Right? So by the revelation about 95 CE, there's no Jesus, there's no Paul, There's no disciples. Now we just dealing with apocalyptic Hebrewism in the form of Roman apocalypticism, mixed with Roman Praetorianism and trauma-based mind control through ritual torture, which is then added onto and paved over with elements of Greek symbolism, because it's all written in Greek, along with the Persian dualism and the Zoroastrian dispensationalism. All of this all of this combined together, all the way up now to when? To the First Council of Nicaea, right? Where Arius, the Libyan, who one of the founders of the Arianus Afris Empire, the Moors again try to stand up and say all of this is false. We're going to go to war with you again. And then this forms the Arians, right? This is where the Arians come in, because the Arians were the sons of Arius and they were against all of this, and Constantine and them was for it. So this is where the Constantinian amalgamation starts popping off, and now we get the wars that start popping off between 300 and 700, 300 BC to 700 AD, right? In which now we get the clergy, the Babylonian Trinity of Isis, Semiramis, and Gilgamesh, that's now replaced by Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I mean, Jesus, Mary, and God, or Jesus, the Holy Ghost, and God, right? Taking the woman out. Then we get the sun worship, because Jesus is the light of the world. Now we put all of this into the Roman canon, which is the gun that we're taking around the world, shooting people who don't accept this shit. Then heaven is now a physical place that everybody can go to. Hell is the physical place under the ground. So this is now why we're burying people, and why people now start to do rituals with the dead bodies. This is why we have to start to create cemeteries, so that way the old pagans who are into necromancy can now go after the Christian rites is done. They can go dig up the bodies and then do the other rituals with them, make it easier for them, right? Now we're drinking the blood, because the vampirism is now intoned into the actual religion through drinking the blood of Christ, which Yeshua never talked about. So now we get in penance. Now we get the establishment of the Church of Rome. 200 years. Again, the Church of Rome existed 200 years before Yeshua was even born. But now it has a new face. Now Constantine is giving it a new perspective. And remember, all of these people we talk about is melanated. These melanated people of varying hues and degrees going at each other. So we can't keep blaming Caucasian people for all of this. Just to throw that in there. So now we getting penances. Now we getting, through the Church of Rome, we getting penance, we getting flagellations, right? We getting the stations of the cross, we getting the catechisms, right? We getting the nuns, we getting the forced celibacies, right? All of the shit that's analogous to actual human life. Right? Boom. Addison. The Sinner wave is a smooth periodic oscillation that represents a fundamental waveform of mathematics, physics, and engineering. It is defined by a trigonometric sin function as described mathematically as y factored by t equals ASIN. So that's Yeshua factored by time, right, equals a sin, where A, the amplitude, the peak, deviation from zero, W is the angular frequency, rate, which is the wave, right, which is the canon, change in the radians per second, T, right, is time, the phase, initial, angle, T equals O. Sinner waves are continuous and repeat every 2 pi radians, right? The Father, the Son are radiant, right? Making them essential for modeling cyclical phenomena such as sound waves, light waves, and alternating currents, electricity, and mechanical vibrations. So look at that. The two radians, the Father and the Son, essential for modeling the cyclical phenomena, which is going from one to the other, right? Which is why most churches have a circle, right, around or at the top of the altar. Look at them. And they alternate the sound waves. That's the chants, that's the mantras, that's the songs, that's the hymns, right? Through the light waves. That's why all of the light in the churches used to have the stained glass, so that way they can transfer the light spectrum and hypnotize everybody that's under it, producing the electrical currents to turn everybody into mechanical vibrations, i.e., automaton machines. Islam? Yes, that's why you get so emotional in church, even when the reverend is saying bullshit. Yes, yes, yes. And so from Rome to Paul, Arius starts the war. We fighting again, and this war keeps going and going and going, because we are all not with it. But by this time, we're starting to move up into Europa, because all of the churches that Paul was talking about in Asia, all of them got shut down. All of them is reduced to rubble by this time. So then we get to the fall of Rome. All of these niggas take this up into Europa. We get the Church of Rome, right? They start dealing with the relics. They start dealing with the ancestral worship, which is the worship of the saints. They start bringing the blood sacrifices. That's the martyrdom. They start bringing the Yahwehist hierarchy, Levite lawmakers. That's the popes. That's the cardinals. That's the bishops. They start bringing in the blood mysticism. That's the Eucharist. They start bringing in the Persian Zoroastrian, Mithrin, Zarathustra, dualism. That's the heaven and the hell. They start bringing in the sexual repression. That's the self-emulation. That's the pedophilia. That's the pedestry. That's the self-emulation, right? Then they start bringing in the obedience through the self. They start bringing in the self-incrimination. That's the confessional, right? They start separating the man and the woman to start creating the priests over here, the nuns over here, right? Because the nuns are the noon is the newt is the sky goddess, who is separated from the earth god, who is Jeb, who is now acting as the priest, who is now forbidden to touch her. Do you see? Do you see how they do this? Do you see? This is how they got us. This is why everything is messed up, because everybody is following some crazy shit that was created by a bunch of people who were insane. All these people were insane when they was doing this. They were insane. This is insanity, what we talking about. This ain't how shit was supposed to be. This not how real people live. How people were supposed to understand spirituality in themselves. All because these niggas wanted to live in the dirt. And didn't want to exist in places where everybody else was living civilized and had a certain degree of understanding of the elements and all of this. No, these niggas wanted to live and worship mysteries, right? And then tune this into our own bodies. You understand? So then, boom, we then jump here to the wars in America. We start to fight. The Moors lose ground, got to go underground. The dirty Moors started creating the white peoples, the Cabbage Patch peoples, started abducting all of these children using the decoys, right? Vlad Tepish and them in basically to set up the Societas Draconis. Vlad Tepes, Dracula, all these people is Moors. Don't let them fool you. These is dirty Moors, part of the Order of the Green Dragon, and worse. who are into all of this, they are keeping the old traditions going, right? They're keeping these old traditions going so that way they can continue to control and mess with the mind state of uh the true and living man who has now become a human, right? On your left is the circle of Willis. This is the ankh that exists inside of your body. This is how most of the arteries and everything in your body are actively flowing. This is what they was showing you in the form of the ankh. The ankh was not just a symbol of the fallopian tubes and the birth canals, also a symbol of the circle of Willis. That's why when Arnold on different strokes used to get into what was really going on, the first thing he said is, "What you talking about, Willis?" Arnold's fish, I said this before, Arnold's fish in the bowl that was called Abraham, right? In the fish bowl, that type of fish is called a blackamoor. So Arnold, who was the brother of Willis, had a fish called Abraham, who was actually a blackamoor in a bowl. Do you see the symbolism? Who were both orphans, taken from their natural parents, and had to be raised with a decoy pedophile who was Mr. Drummond, to drum in. So these whites are now infused with an old revivalist form of this paganism called Calvinism, which was basically Christian hedonism, which was basically another form of Buddhism, which was a form of sexual Buddhism, in which that Calvinism really talked about like the degradation of man and how humans were basically useless, and that there's nothing you can do that God doesn't know that's already been done. So you're basically trapped in this cyclical, right? In this sinner wave, in this cyclical cylindrical loop that you can never break through, right? And so the object of foundation is worship, not not the true and living self, not even salvation, but worship of something that is greater than you, because you are a wretch, you are nothing, right? And that God is judge, jury, and executioner over this austeric mortality that you do not even have the luxury to exist in. So Calvinism is basically the father of the U.S. corporation, of modern United States Christianity. It's basically a new form of Paul doctrine, of Pauline doctrine, and it's another version of Roman Praetorianism, mixed with Freemasonry, mixed with Babylonian Freemasonry, which then is giving you a scholastical, logistical view of determinism. So there's a beginning and an end to you. And after that, there's nothing, right? This brings about a form of what they call Puritan morality, yes, which is what they gave the so-called prisoners, our prisoners of war on the plantations, right? Gave them Puritan morality, gave them a prosperity gospel, which they could basically suck money from you, and gave you a form of Muslim synchronism. You understand? This is what you've been under for the past 2,000 years. All of this then becomes a hodgepodge mix between the end of the 1800s into the 1900s, and this becomes modern American Christianity, which in itself, right, is a form of Hellenistic Judaism. It's another version of early medieval Catholicism. It's also a manifestation of Greco-Roman necromancy. It's also filled up with Mithra, Q type, QAnon type mysteries, right? Mixed with a form of what they refer to as Augustinism, which is really a form of sexual repression, right? Throw some Lutheranism in there, throw some Christian revivalism in there, throw some Southern Hoodoo in there, throw some Southern Baptist in there, throw some Christian Science Monitor in there, throw some Voodoo, Haitian Creole Voodoo in there, throw some Santa Maria Santissima Muerte in there, right? This is where you get the Holy Spirit. This is where you get the talking in tongues. This is where they throw the Naga serpentine religion in there. When you see the revivalist niggas with the snakes, when you see all the black people with the snakes jumping up and down. The other day they had a black woman. She was giving a sermon. This is why women are not supposed to be preachers. She was giving a sermon. She had the snake around her neck and was talking all of this shit. Then the snake started choking her. Y'all seen that? This is where this is all coming from. The totemic ones, the totemic root workers, right? This is where all of this is mixed into. This is what became American Christianity, which is really Satanism, right? So when we put all of this together, this becomes a form of modern, what we would call modern Christianity or Chrislam, right? This is modern Chrislam, which is a Roman continuity, Pauline, Deuteronomism, conformism, Yahwehist gods, Calvinist hedonism, Pentecostal anthropology, Seventh-day Adventist performanism, American individualism mixed with Persian duality, Zoroastrianism, Mithraism, what's the word? Mithra homosexuality, because Mithra was a homosexual god, hated women. Christian, Roman, Voodoo, West African cosmology, right? Christian Science Monitor, what do you call it? Elohist justice, Deuteronomist legalism, apocalyptic Platoism. I forgot Plato. Platoism is in there. Also mixed with Marcus Aurelius, with Stoicism, Gnosticism, medieval blood theology. What else? Egyptian cosmology, Sumerian myths, ancient Canaanite religions, Aryan soterology, and all of this becomes the basic aspect of modern Hellenism, all conjoined to separate us from the original intent of what life was actually all about, right? Which basically is living internally. What was it? Living internally with freedom and equality. Because when you exist within yourself in a free mind state, you are free of all of this garbage that they have inundated this world into believing. Because none of these things that we just went through are actually real. All of it, from the very circumpunct, somebody look up what a circumpunct is fake. The closest we got back to it again was Yeshua and Arius. Everything else was fake. You understand? Because the idea was to turn us all into batteries that these disembodied spirits that these niggas worship could further enthrall us and control us. You understand? That we would never give up. So that way we would fall back into the false reality so they could continue to overwork our spirit to the point of uncompletion. So that way we would have to come back and keep doing it over and over again. In a sense, turning the filaments of our etheric body into a plasmic ball that basically is the essence of all of what they consider space is. This is what space is. The space that they talk about is fake. The real space is the filaments that exist within us, as we are the plasmoids that travel through everything through the magnetic polypolymer that we refer to as melanin, that they call dark matter or dark energy. So in essence, they're giving us the grape, telling us, converting it into wine, putting it in a bottle, and then telling us that it's a new grape. You understand? When it's the same grape from the same vine, from the same farm, from the same vineyard, from in the same bottle. You understand? That's what we're dealing with. That's what they're fighting these wars to get us to not remember. You understand? That's what's happening. The problem is we still remember. So it's not working. You understand? We have to respect and understand that everybody that they show to us on TV is down with it. And none of these people have our best interests in mind, because they are all acting as something that they are not, which is good people. Because good people cannot and will not suffer around negative or evil people, regardless to how much money they have, regardless to how much prestige they give them. You understand? That is just the law. That is just a fact. You heard that they're trying to use the Kurdish people, right? They said that the Kurdish people are now going to be used to fight the Persians in Iran. I just told you and proved to you that all of these people and all of their religions work together. So why would the Persians want to fight them when they are all down with each other? You understand? Well, what you don't know about the Kurds is that the Kurds worship a god. They are considered pagan by the pagans, which is crazy. The Persians are considered pagans by the pagans. Why? Because the Persians worship a god who is technically a melanated god. All gods are melanated, but essentially they're all gods, right? But this god is melanated, but he's actually blue. This god is called Malik Tos. I'm going to show him to you. He is another version of Amen. This is him in the middle. He is called the peacock god. This is who they worship. See, he's burning the candle at both ends. Whenever you hear them use that term, whoever's using that term is referring to Malik Tos. See how he's throwing up the mudra? See how he's blue? You see how the Crips be throwing up the mudras and the hand signs? See how he's blue on a red pillow in the desert? See that? At the dusk. And he is the peacock god. He is another manifestation of Amen. This is who the Kurds worship. You see Idris Elba. You see how Charles right here, he got on the same blue as Malik Tos. See that? And who is he knighting? He's knighting Idris Elba. Right? Now remember, this white King Charles is the direct descendant or decoy descendant of Vlad Tepes. So he technically is being knighted by Dracula. You understand? You know how many babies this nigga Charles then ate over his years? He was best friends. All his best friends were pedivore cannibals like Jimmy Savile, who raped and ate over 600 children. And this is who you're being knighted by? But look, he's knighting him with a short sword. See, he not even knighting him with a long sword. And look, the sword is almost under his neck. Do you see this? Do you see the ritual, y'all? But he is an African. You understand? Who grew up in Britain, who got famous by playing an American drug dealer. So when I tell you all these demons are against you, I'm telling you the truth. There's another Alba named Damson who they're going to get to play Black Panther. This nigga's name is Damson Idris. There's an interview where he was talking about how when he was trying to get into a role and couldn't get it, he went into the mirror and started begging Satan, begging the devil to come into him so he could do the role properly. Look it up. So they've taken our sciences and turned it into a form of demonic worship, which is why the prophet is different, which is why we cannot conflate the Circle 7 Quran of the Prophet Noble Jew Ali and conflate that in any way with the Sunni Quran or anything that them pale Arabs and their black slaves, Abids, are doing. We are different. We are Muslims. We are Moors. We are the ones who rebelled against all of the idol worship. And all of them are idol worshippers. If they're if they're doing the circumambulation, if they're throwing the stones, if they're praying, all of that is pagan idol worship. Everyone is free to believe what they want. But when they try to impose that on you and try to shame you as if what you are dealing with is somehow inferior to them, they are practicing all of the religious manipulation stuff that we've been talking about for the past hour. They're trying to put you under it. The prophet came and is distinct from every other prophet. Jew Ali is distinct from every other prophet in the world that ever came, because he came for us, nobody else. So if you're not a Moor, if you're not Moorish, if you're not a Moorish American, you're not part of the Moorish Empire, whatever, then great, he not for you. If you think that the Prophet Muhammad or whoever else is for you and you want to do the worshiping and you want to do all that other shit, then do that. But don't try to put your Quran, your glorious Quran, over the Circle 7, because that's totally different. That was compiled by somebody totally different who was born here, who went through the same situation and struggle that I went through over here to this day. I don't have nothing in common with them people over there. He came to me in the language that I speak today. I didn't have to learn another language to understand what he was talking about. It's not another secret club or a fraternal organization or an occult or a shrine or a Freemason. We none of that. We do everything we do in the light of the day. So don't let them fool you or trying to con you into going against your own self and your own people for a religion. So we're going to go through this real quick and then we're going to close out. So I say all of that to say, if you didn't know, all of this was already scripted by these people. This war, this whole thing was already scripted by all of them. They've been following the script from the beginning. Epstein, as a person, does not exist. Okay? Epstein, hear what I'm telling you. Epstein, as a person, never existed. Epstein is a place, not a person. I'm going to show you. I hate that. I hate when I think I have it and then it's just not there. No. Epstein is a place in Europe called Epstein Hesse. Everybody who's named Epstein comes from the area in Europe called Epstein Hesse. It's in a place in Germany called Hesse, where Hermann Hesse was named after. They came over here under these pogroms. And then in the pogroms, they had mutual aid societies that would allow them to come over here, and then they would pay for them. But you would be brought over, and then you would assume the name of the place that you came from. So the dude they called Jeffrey Epstein and his people came from Epstein Hesse in Germany. Okay? They use a form of statecraft, of spy espionage called paper tripping. Paper tripping is a form of identity theft often called ghosting, where an individual assumes the identity of a deceased person to create a new life or hide their past life using records of someone who has died. A person can obtain legal documents effectively adopting a dormant identity. That's why when they was doing the Doge situation, they found 20 different people using the same dead man's social security number. This is how they've been able to manipulate everything from this point on. Okay. Now, this book right here was written by Leslie Epstein. Leslie Epstein is the brother of the dude that you call Epstein. He is one of his brothers. This is him. Crap. I hate when that happens. He wrote a book called The King of the Jews. Okay? And in this book, this is what it's about. Now, see if this sounds familiar. King of the Jews is a 1979 classic written by Leslie Epstein. See how I got a woman's name? It is the work of a Holocaust literature for the dark humor and polarizing farcical approach to the horrors of Nazi occupation in Poland. The story takes place in a Jewish ghetto where I see Trumpelman, an eccentric director of an orphanage, becomes the head of the Jewish council. Trumpelman is a complex, often authoritarian leader who must make impossible decisions about which residents live or be sent to the camps. He is portrayed as a blend of a con man, a charismatic leader, and a ruthless dictator. His name is Trumpelman. Theme: the book explores the moral ambiguity of the Judenrat, the complexity of the Jews in their own destruction, and the idea of portraying victims as ordinary sinners. What do we say about sinners? Rather than simply martyred saints. So right there, they showing you what? Deuteronomic determinism, right? And Roman Praetorianism in the form of human sacrifice, aka martyred saints, saint worship, which is also in Hoodoo. Don't they worship the saints in Hoodoo as well as the Orisha, right? The saints who were placeholders for the gods, right? While sometimes criticized for its tone, it has been praised as a superb novel and significant daring work of Holocaust fiction. So this is Jeff's brother. Okay? He wrote the book, The King of the Jews, because that's who Jeffrey was. He was the king of the Jews. In terms of his position in it, that's why everybody was dealing with him from the Rothschilds on down. Because remember, the Rothschilds are what? Sabbatean, Frankist, Fabianists, right? They also wrote a book, Daniel Barr, who was the one that covered for Epstein, he wrote this book. Donald Barr wrote this book called what? Space Relations. And in Space Relations, this was about a group of elite people in the future who made money off of eating and cloning and raping children over the course of many years and using them to blackmail other people in their sphere of influence. Damn it. Why I always do that, bro? Of course, I'm not going to find it now. But did you know that Epstein is also a virus? Did you know that? In microbiology, it's called Epstein-Barr virus. Another way of what they call a yuppie flu. That's right. Yes, they also call it mononucleosis. Right? Right? This is your boy going through all of that. Did you know that the Epstein brothers were the ones who wrote the movie Casablanca? Yes, they wrote the movie Casablanca. And the Epstein brothers, not these two Epstein, the Epsteins before them, they wrote Casablanca, and then the Casablanca was written because it was a part of an operation that they were doing called Operation Torch. Yes, they were doing this to help perpetuate an operation they had called Operation Torch, in which they were paper tripping, and the fact that the Epsteins were actual knock agents. A knock agent is different than a secret agent. Well, knock agents are secret agents, but what makes them knocks is that they can't tell anybody what they're doing. Thank you, babe. They can't tell anybody. They're not officially sanctioned, meaning that most diplomatic agents are public. Knock agents are illegal. If you get found out to be a knock agent, you automatically go to jail. So during the McCarthy era, the Epsteins were listed as knock agents and wound up having to go to jail. And they were outed by the head of Metro Golden Mayor, Mr. Mayor, who owned MGM, because all of those people were a part of the operation to create the insurgency inside of the United States to be able to perpetuate mind control over the masses through entertainment by working with the intelligence agencies to do so. But they needed the public to be a part of it. That's why if you go back and look at the movie Casablanca, you will see there's a scene in it where there's a bunch of Jews in the bar, and they all start screaming and singing in Polish and Yiddish. Those were actually real Jews. That had just been taken from some of the camps. This is what led to the occupation of Morocco that lasted up until 1956, when they switched the designation and then got them to sell us out and establish the kingdom. So as I said, Epstein was a work name for all of the agents that were taken out of Epstein Hess in Germany as slaves and operatives to perpetuate all of the diseases and all of that. They created Epstein-Barr. They created COVID. They created all of these things that we have been suffering through today. Matter of fact, in order for them to test if you had the Epstein-Barr thing, they would have to stick something up your nose. So what we're seeing in the form of this Epstein war is the culmination of all of this dark magic and all of this dark stuff that they've been doing from the beginning. That's why the music industry and all of these people are all of these agencies are run by these people. Understand? Because they're all knock agents. Wexner, a knock agent. Robert Maxwell, a knock agent. Ghislaine, knock agent. Epstein, Jeffrey, knock agent. Everybody in Hollywood, knock agents. All of the songs that are written by these people are all written usually by one person. All of the real artists that really do stuff or whatever, once they find out and start going against it, they kill them. You understand? Go to YouTube and type in the guy who writes all of the pop songs, or the one man who writes all of the 90s pop songs and all that. Most of those pop songs came out of Switzerland. That were big in America. Most of them came out of Switzerland, Germany, because they're all written by the same people, and they all happen to be small hats. Why do you think he named his company Rockefeller? Aren't the Rockefeller small hats? Yes. Crypto small hats. The gold, that's why they all adopt different names. That's why they've infested every aspect of reality, every aspect of American life. Anybody have any questions? All of these people, you understand, are down with it. The only ones that's not down with it are the ones that you never see. That's why all of these people look alike. That's why all of the music sucks. That's why nothing is good anymore. Because the luster, everything is gone. We know now. So now we can't act like we don't know. So none of them can make music no more. None of them can get money off of us no more. These are the levels of files that this nigga was going into. How many people? Look at how much finance this nigga was dealing with. Remember, he was the admin for the Rothschilds. Media entertainment, look how big. Business and politics, look how many. This nigga was in every aspect of American life. Tech, real estate, other. That's all of the child eating and baby eating shit. But now it's all worn off. Netanyahu dead. So now that the head of the snake is dead, they can't admit it. So they're going to keep putting out AI videos acting like this nigga's still around, but he's gone. So now that he's gone, the whole apparatus is now split because a lot of it was based upon his energy. They don't have nobody of that nigga's stature in this anymore. So it's pretty much a wash for them. So any false flag that they do in LA or any of the blue, it's going to be in a blue state. It ain't going to be in a red state. It's going to be in a blue state because that's the only one. In California, they got them niggas by the balls because remember, all of that's run by Hollywood, and Hollywood don't have no more money. So they'll pay them niggas off to basically put on a big show so that way they could do it the same way that they did with the fake planes that allegedly hit the building that we know never hit no building, because there was no plane debris. That was all CGI. They already proved that. These are some books you can get. Start familiarizing yourself with, especially the one on the left. Yeah, 4chan Q, that was all them. But I told you, under the operation that they was doing that through, they had to put out the real stuff that they was doing. So all of it was real. That's why they can't deny none of it no more. That's why Trump gonna have to testify in a minute. But remember, they killed a lot of these dudes already through the executions that they haven't showed us. But they still keeping the game going because they can't not be in control. But these books right here will have you understanding how to break any of their control when it comes to actual fictitious colorable law. Because it's all based on how things are styled and how they relate to the actual maxims of what law is. And anything coming from the fruit of the poisonous tree that we already know they are cannot be enforced in law. Yeah, Cardi B, all of them people is involved. They're all a part of this. They are all slaves to these people, to these things. You can go into the back of Black's Law Dictionary to get more of the maxims of law as well. To start to go through it. To start to familiarize yourself with it. But yeah, your boy Jeff. Also, this is a picture of this nigga. They just found this nigga out here in Florida. Well, because, he can't be in Israel right now because, that shit is being bombed into the Stone Age. So they gave this nigga a furlough. So now he out here. This allegedly was him in Florida. He shaved the beard. Man, we showed him with the beard the other day. So they caught this nigga driving down the strip in the drop top the other day, son. So you see how they manipulated the Epstein bar and basically linked it up with the COVID and then used the COVID, which is the Epstein bar, as a means to get and break the blood-brain barrier, so that way they could start putting the nanotechnology and all that shit into you. This is why in the Epstein files, when it said that he was putting his blood and his DNA in all of the shots, this is what they talking about. Because Epstein, like I said, is the demon, is the name of the place. None of these niggas had names. They were all named, all of these Holstein and Robertstein and Schwarzstein and all of them niggas is named after the places that they were from, because they never had nothing. They couldn't own no property. They were being wiped out. So he's still alive because he got out. But BB dead. So they putting up old AI videos of this nigga and all of that. But it don't matter. It's over. They lost. So now what they're going to do, like a virus, they're going to spread to other parts of the world and try to set up shop, because that place was never meant to. They was never meant to last in that place anyway. The very first place they was going to send them was Uganda. Then they decided they was going to send them to Manchukuo. Show you how dirty these niggas are. When Satan Yahoo would come here, when he would come here to meet and have the state dinners or whatever he had to do, when he would come, they would bring him to he would come to the White House, and he'll bring whole duffel bags full of all the dirty laundry that they do all of the sex rituals with, and eating the babies and all the stuff they was doing with that. They would keep all of the linen from those things, and he'll bring them to the United States, so that way the staff in the White House would have to wash them. So they would come with shit stains and cum stains and all types of bodily fluids and blood and all that type of stuff, just so that way the people in the White House cleaning staff would have to clean them. You understand? So symbolically, what he's doing was showing them that they all have to do Israel's dirty laundry. This is how sick and ritualistic these animals and these devils really are. You understand? So now that they're all being bombed into the Stone Age and they all have to leave and they all are going through it, this is the time in which we, as the true American, as the true original Americans, is supposed to get our shit together enough so that way we can fall back to the empire and its representative in the republic. That's what we're supposed to be doing right now. Anybody saying anything else is down with it. You understand? Trying to turn us all into batteries for these niggas. Because we are the descendants of the true Moors, the true original people, the true ones who have been fighting this war from the time even before the times of Micah. And we will be the ones fighting it after while the rest of these niggas have sold out. You understand? So when they try to get us to go against our own by trying to merge us with some other group or some other understanding or some other dispensation of Moors who don't have nothing to do with us, that's when we supposed to stand up and be like, nah, that ain't got nothing to do with us. Our prophet came and gave us specific instructions. You know what I'm saying? And because we are the temple and because we are the original people, because we are the original Americans, North, Central, and South, those of us that's down with it is supposed to be down with that. Everything else is hearsay and a damn lie. And niggas trying to get us to denationalize ourselves and go along with something that we don't have nothing to do with. Prophet Muhammad is not my prophet. Period. He could be yours if you want. That's all good. I give knowledge to the fact that he is yours, and I give you respect for that. But the minute you try to circumvent me and try to say that, because these niggas would be like, oh, we love the Prophet Noah Ali, and then behind you be like, oh, he's shirk. That's shirk. You better not let these niggas set up Sharia law, because they'll be the first ones to try to force you and I to basically say that we're heretics because we follow the Prophet. You better not let them set up some Sharia law over you. You understand? You have your own. We have our own law. We are under our own vine and fig tree. We are not from the fruit of the poisonous tree. You understand? Our people are our people. And we give respect to everybody, but we're not like everybody. We are like and unto ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should be proud of that. We have an illustrious history here. So we can't always be worried about what somebody doing over there. Granada for us and all of that is over here. Morocco is over here. We done already showed and proved it. So we got to stop taking what other people is telling us about our ancient ancestors and go back to what we know they are. Because we are them today. So we not doing paganism and we not sacrificing bodies and we not drinking blood and we not doing none of that today. 10 chances to 1. That means in your ancestral line, you wasn't doing that neither. I don't gotta pray 5 times a day to know who and what where Allah is. Allah exists in the heart. You understand? I ain't gotta study 35 to 50 years to know who the true and living God, who the original man is. You understand? I don't have to wear no apron to hide my nakedness because I'm not ashamed of myself. I don't have to wear another man's name on top of my head to show that I'm owned by some nigga in a dead shrine. You understand? All of that is that's shirk. That's haram. You understand? I don't come from a people who marry children and have child brides. As great as the Iranians is, it's really crazy work when the Iranians who still practice child marriage, where a 60-year-old man can marry a 10-year-old girl, is out here telling you that they fighting against the Epstein organization. That's when you know we done reached a whole nother level of crazy. If that ain't the kettle calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. You heard? So anybody have any questions? So again, thank you guys again for coming through. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already, check out www.aseertheducateers.com. Also check out cordobaorganics.com. The queen, she's always producing the great products for everybody. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so to the A-Dot app. Honest to all the faithful Moors and all the faithful allies of the Moors, regardless to how you spell it. Because we ain't never fight no war over no damn semantics, whether O's or U's. You understand? We ain't never do that. That's some new TikTok fake knowledge shit. Because these same niggas will do that. It'll be the same ones talking to you about how, they Indians and everything else. That's now cipher. We done passed all of that. All them Indians right now is trying to still refer to you as a black Indian and a black Spaniard or a black whatever. And y'all niggas are still doing it because you want money and recognition from them. You should be ashamed of yourself. We got to go back again to our own vine and fig tree. We are who our ancestors were and nobody else. You can stare at you all day and me all day, but you will always be you. I will always be me. This is where we got to take it back to, man. You know what I'm saying? And this is here in America. You dig? So, again, long live the empire. If anybody has any questions, you can hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get up to 25. They finally letting me pass 57,000. So hopefully I'll get up to 60 in another couple of months. You know what I'm saying? So if you could do that. Also, I'm starting up the membership on the page. So if you on the channel, so if you could become a member, that would be great. And again, Moors, we all we got. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you can look into the stuff that we talked to tonight. Do more of the knowledge to that. Get those books I talked about. Next week I'm gonna start also showcasing books from Moors that I know have been writing books out here, so we can support them as well, because they burning books and shit out here in Florida. But again, we got to stop going to these white people and expecting them to give us true history of who we are, or any other nation or any other group telling us who we are and what our history is, because they all lying. You know what I'm saying? Unless they talk about nationality, spirituality, or birthright, they trying to put us back in slavery. So long live the empire. Pax et amor. Preconium lut laudibus. You know what I'm saying? And inshallah we get up next week. All right? Islam.